Welcome to Comet Computer Private Limited e-learning program of implementing and administering networking technologies. We are going to see about understanding booting sequence and register values. So we have seen the components of router, how to configure the basics of router in the previous sessions. So now you would have got some basic idea about the router and how it functions and what are the basic parameters required to make the router into a um, introduction stage, like how to introduce the router to the real network. So these are the basic configurations you are seeing. As per the organization requirement, definitely you will have kind of advanced configurations enabled. So you can get into organization and you can find what is the standards they are following, then you can adopt it. But these are all the basic thing which is required for all the companies or organizations. Now this register values booting sequence, technically how the router is doing the booting, and we know post, right? POST, power on self test, same way how it is doing in router. And then for keeping the register value, we have to modify the boot register values. So what is the value and what will happen if the value is changed, how the value is getting changed, what is the command used for change, right? So all these things we are going to learn here. So this is basically done for troubleshooting session, or I forgot the password, I want to reset the password. So the real scenarios, if one administrator leaves the organization and without giving the password of the router, so the other administrator may not know. He will be knowing it, but suppose he want to break the password, he can do it. So the steps are available here. So we can use that steps to break the password of the router. But if you take the enterprise organizations, the thing is different. So there is no requirement of changing the register values for anything because everything is connected in the real network, and proper backup is going on, and the authentications are controlled by TACAX or Radius. So we are not going to touch anything on the local. So the standard username and passwords, the local username and passwords will work. So it will be uniform across all the devices, but when you are going for network-based authentication via TACAX, it is referring the individual user's authentication, not the device-based authentication. So we are being protected in that area. But anyway, so we have to learn how to do the things in real time. So we can see about the different values available and how to break the passwords in the router. So the main components of the router, apart from the hardware side, so some of the configuration side we have to see here. In the earlier stage, we have seen processor, memory, all those things as a component. Now this is actually logical components. So you have a bootstrap which is loaded into your ROM, something like a BIOS. So it is used for bringing up the router to the initial stages, initiation stage. So this is going to be helping you to load the operating system. Then after that, the post is getting kicked off. So it is also stored in ROM. So Bootstrap is showing that okay, that is your operating system. Now post is verifying all the hardware component interface level, wireless interface, Ethernet interface, network card, memory. So it is testing all the components available in the memory hardware components and gives the go ahead for working. If there is an error, definitely it will show you the error message. It will not allow you to proceed further. And row monitor. So this is also stored in ROM. This is used for testing and troubleshooting. So if suppose the iOS is not available, the flash memory iOS is corrupted, deleted, so all those things happens, right? Immediately the router will go into a mini iOS mode or a monitor mode. So this is used for troubleshooting. So for running a mini iOS, we need to have row monitor mode enabled. So we'll see the prompt. Now in a normal working condition, you are seeing the prompt as a router or whatever the names and greater the symbol, right? So in case of raw monitor, you will see a prompt as a raw monitor, so that you cannot rename it. There is a standard label is given for the router. So you will see the prompt as a raw monitor prompt and greater than symbol. That's it. Like you see the router has a greater than symbol, right? User execute mode. You will see raw monitor mode and a greater than symbol. And mini iOS, so RX boot or bootloader by Cisco. Um, when the iOS is corrupted and we don't have any options, then we have to go for a mini iOS. So apart from the normal operations, it is also performing additional maintenance related activities. That is mini iOS. RAM, random access memory. So this is used to hold packet buffers and used for storing the running configurations, and expands iOS from flash into RAM upon booting. So after booting the flash, some of the contents are moved to RAM. ROM used to start maintain the router, holds the post and the bootstrap program as well as the mini iOS. So ROM will be a big IC, so it will hold multiple component. Flash memory, so it is made up of EEPROM and NVRAM, non-volatile RAM. So this is going to store your dynamic, I mean, the startup configurations, right? It is going to store your startup configuration. Configuration register, this is the main component for which we are going to discuss about the entire chapter. So this register is going to store the value. So like I'm saying now booting sequence in BIOS, say first boot sequence is hard disk. So the bootstrap loader is loading and it's just checking the BIOS and finding out from where I have to find the operating system, and it is loading the operating system. If operating system is not available in the hard disk, what I have to do? I have to go to CD-ROM. CD-ROM is not available. What I have to do? Floppy disk. Okay. So the sequence is mentioned in the BIOS. So this bootstrap loader will go through BIOS and find out the booting device and will try to boot. If none of the devices having the booting file, then you will get the error message: boot OS not found, booting failure, booting operating system not found. That's it. So same way, this configuration register holds some value. Based on the value only, it is going to read the content or skip the content. Now, simply I'll say, if I say the register value is kept as 2102 0x 2102, it will read the content and it will load the iOS, right? So if suppose there is a different content, it will skip reading the iOS. So automatically it will go to the setup mode because you don't have any configurations available in the register itself. Okay, it will assume if the value is changed. So the default value, what you have to remember is 0x2102. This is required for your CCNA exam and for some of the interviews also. People may ask, okay, this is common for a Cisco router. Okay, this may be different for other company routers, but this is only for Cisco routers. Most of the time, we are using Cisco devices, right? So that's the reason we are studying about Cisco related components. So the booting sequence in a sequence in a router or switch is given here. So when you are powering on the router, performing the post and testing the hardware, then it is going for taking stock of interfaces, marking the status of it, working, not working, everything will be marked. Locate the iOS, loading the iOS from flash. So it is also finding out where is the flash, the earlier stage, and now it is loading the iOS from the flash. Check for configuration file. Normally, startup configuration is available in the NVRAM. So we'll just probe the NVRAM for getting the startup configuration. If the file is available, yeah, I'm good. So I'll boot the router. If the suppose the file is not available, I change the number as 2142. So the file is not available, or I'm skipping the checking of NVRAM. I'll just go and check whether I have a tftp server and the configuration is loaded in that. If configuration is available, iOS and configuration is available, I will load it from that particular TFTP server into the router. Even then it is not available, so the router will assume, okay, I have a new operating system, so I don't have any configuration details. So let me load into the setup mode. So setup mode is a mode where you will see the router with the basic things. It is like a fresh device. Okay, so uh, when you when you buy the router, so it'll take you to the setup mode and it'll ask you questions like a wizard. So you have to provide the details instead of typing the commands. You can provide the details, then it will all set and boot the device. Okay, so your configurations are lost, so you are going and trying it out as a fresh router. Okay, so that is the setup mode. This should not happen, but if it is happening, definitely we need to have a troubleshooting on. Something like I have a backup file configured separately available. So I'll have to download the backup file. I'll try to load it into the router and see whether I'm able to configure it with with the help of old file. Okay, so if iOS is corrupted, I can download the firmware from the internet. I can use the TFTP server, so from where I can download the iOS into my router. And same way, configurations also I can download from my TFTP. Okay, so then load it to the router's NVRAM and flash. So you'll be able to work further on the router. This is a phase-wise manner. So phase one, roam is taking place. So post is done, performing the post. Second is also on roam, bootstrap, loading the bootstrap program. Third phase is for flash, where your iOS is loaded. So I have to locate the flash and load it. Fourth phase is if flash is not available or flash is empty, then I'll have to look for TFTP server. Okay, once TFTP server is found, I'm just checking for NVRAM configuration, startup configuration. If available, I'll just proceed. Otherwise, again, I'll go for a TFTP server and load for the details. And finally, I'll go to the console prompt and wait for further commands to be executed. Okay, so this is the phase-wise manner for booting of the router. So simple, if I have a iOS, I'll boot. If I don't have iOS, I'll load it into the setup mode, load into the row monitor mode. If I have a configuration file, startup configuration file, I'll load it. Otherwise, I'll go to the setup mode for reading the configuration details. So managing the configuration register. Now our main part comes here. How to manage the register? Okay, so that 0x2102 value we are entering, right? That is a register value. Okay, it is a 16-bit register, software register available into the NVRAM. So what happens is so we are setting up some value 2102. It means by this means it is always marking towards loading the iOS and the configurations from the iOS from flash and configuration from NVRAM. So that is how the default value is working. This value ensures the router is booting in a normal mode, so not other modes, right? Row monitor mode or a mini iOS mode. This router is booting in a normal mode. I'll tell you, if you change the value, you can directly go to the setup mode, you can skip it, or you can bring a lot of additional options to the router. So the 16-bit value it is mentioned here, okay, in the bottom of the table. One is binary value, bit number, and the configuration register value. So what happens here is a 4-digit, right? So each digit carries 4 bit. Okay. So four digits carries 16 bit. Okay. This is how 16 bit is divided. So since I'm saying 2102, each digit, right? I have to split it as 4 bits. So this is how I set. So this the binary value of 2 in decimal, so you have to write the binary value, right? For 2, it is 0010. Make it as a 4-digit number, and it should be 0010. If I generally write, I'll write it as 10, because if I convert binary, the decimal to binary or hexadecimal to binary, I have 2, it will become reference as a 10. But what is the standard I'm using? 4-bit. Okay, so for rest of the 2 bits, I will put 00. Okay, so something like that. One is 0001. Okay, that is one. Two is 0010. So 16-bit, it means that you are going to turn the bits on. So from right to left, you are turning the bit on for a second bit, or you are making it on for eighth bit, you are making it on for 13th bit. So you are turning these bits on. Okay, so the earlier numbers, the other numbers are available 2142. So 4 is coming in the third section. So here it is mentioned as a 0. So what I have to do in this area, I have to put it as a 4. 4 converting into binary, it will become 0100. So here I'll have to put 0. So instead of seventh place, I'll put 0 and then 1, and then fifth is 0, sixth is 0, fourth is 0. So the entire thing will just get changed to 2142. Okay, so by reading 2142, the system will skip your startup configuration. It will load the default configuration and take you to the setup mode. That's it. So that is the difference in values. Software configuration, they have provided a different X value, and they are saying if you are doing any changes in that area, it will be referring this operation only. So 0x is the configuration register address. It means that we are following the hexadecimal pattern. Okay, 0x to binary. So we have to convert into binary and then decimal. So we have to do it. Um, Here, if you are flipping the bits, right? So if you are changing the bits between 0 to 3, it is referring to boot field. Okay, if you are flipping only sixth portion, so it will be referring ignore nvram content. Okay, that's how you get the 2142. And seventh bit, if you are turning on the seventh bit, suppose if it is 0, you are going to make it as a 1. So 8 bit, something like that. So each bit represents each value. So if it is 0, it says value less. Okay, I'm just going to make a change so that it by flipping the bit, if it is 0, I'll just flip it as 1. If it is 1, I'll flip it as 2. I mean, sorry, 0. So accordingly, I'll get the change in value. Okay, register values. So if it is 0, 0, it is a row monitor mode. Okay, it is very rarely available, and if it is corrupted, you'll get row monitor mode 2100. Okay, last two digits. Then 2101, it is mini iOS mode. So if the iOS is corrupted, it has to load the mini iOS mode. The third one is 0220F. It is normal iOS booting. That's what we started with the 2102. So we have ranges from 2102 to 2104. Each one will perform different types of operation. 2103, 2104, something till 9, then F till F. So that much configuration values are there. This is all used for normal booting. Okay, so you can mention it, and the router will perform the booting operations in a very normal manner. Checking the current configuration register value. So now the router is working in a normal mode. So you can just check the version by using the command called show version. That will help you for finding out the version and available size, all those things. So just to check the version of the um, iOS what we have. So I'm just getting into the router. Okay, so now show command will work only in the privilege mode. So I have to enter privilege mode. Password we have to enter. I have already configured it. So this password I have to enter. Okay, because I'm using it for a different lab purpose, I protected this with the password. Show version. So here, this gives the show version command, and especially we'll get process ID and serial number for the device. And here, the bottom I can see configuration register is 2102. Okay, so this is the main important thing in this command. Also, I can see the iOS occupied, how much is occupied, and processor board 2 gigabit Ethernet interface, 2 low speed internet. So everything is available in the show version command. So changing the configuration register value. So changing the value is simple. So I have to get into the global configuration mode and change it to config-register. It will be 2142. So I have to mention config-register 2142. So as soon as I enter the value, and when I next time reboot, it will not go to the normal booting option. It will go to the setup mode because it is not reading the configurations available in the system. Okay, so let us try updating the command. So we are already in the privilege mode, getting into the configuration mode. So here the command used is config-terminal, sorry, config-register 0x0x2142. That's it. I have changed the value. Um, Control Z. I type show version. So here it is clearly says that my current value is 2102. If I reboot, I'll take you to 2142 next reload. Anyway, I have to save the configuration. Otherwise, I cannot get the same configuration, right? So copy run to start. So I'll have to reboot the router now. So after copying the data, we have to reboot the router. So I'm typing the command reload. Proceed with the reload. Confirm. Yes. We already restarted. I mean, we already saved the configuration. So now the router is booting. See, it is not reading my configuration. It is going to the setup mode because 2142 is skipping the NVRAM where I have a startup configuration. So that option is working perfectly. So because the router is not able to read the configuration file, it is assuming that it is a new router. See, as of now, iOS is not corrupted. iOS operating system is working fine, but I'm just disturbing the existing configurations in the router. Okay, so whatever I stored, it is lost. This is as if I'm using a fresh router. So I'll have to initiate a configuration and do it. But one thing you have to remember, after doing all this configuration, maybe I'll just say no now. Okay, so see, it is not prompting for any password. Just go to enable, show run. See, running configurations. Okay, and I'll have to modify the router into normal value. Let me see here, 2142. So normally what people will do, they will configure the host name, IP address, everything again, but they will fail to update the value, register value. Since it is still with 2142, whatever configurations you saved, that will be lost because the configuration file is not reading the startup configuration file, whether it is NVRAM. So what we have to do, as soon as we change the value, so I have to go to um, conf t. I'm not changing the configurations here because whatever details I marked it in the previous configuration, I'll be lost. I mean, I'll be losing it. So what I'm doing, I'm just config-register 0x. I have to use 0x, okay. Hexadecimal number to mention that 2102. 210x 2102. I exit from the router. I just go for reloading. So now the value is changed, copied to the router from 21422 2102. Now the configuration is loading. Okay. So the router is loading. Show version. So it is 2102. So since this router is loading the fresh configurations, we have to uh, restore the startup configurations from the router. So in case of booting password changes, we'll be making the changes and saving the configurations. And now if I load it as a fresh. So if you want to change the password, you can change it in the earlier stage when it was 2142. Okay, so now we have to restore the configurations from the backup. So I would have taken a copy of a backup file in some other places, right? TFTP server. So from that, I have to take a backup and restore it. So I'll get previous configurations of the router. So this is required for troubleshooting. Okay, so my router configuration is last, my router is corrupted, so all those process scenarios are there, right? So in that case, we have to go like this. Okay, so you will be getting entire fresh router. So boot system command, you can see that also. You have different commands available. Okay, so you can mention where you wanted to boot. Okay, I just type boot, then system, then what is the option available? You have the option like boot system flash. So a word means you can mention the TFTP file name or URL wherever you have the file stored in TFTP server. And flash means your local flash memory. TFTP boot from a TFTP server. So either you can mention it. So now by default it will be like boot system flash, and you see the presentation boot system flash, and we have to mention the file name. So normally if I put show flash, okay, not this command, I'll just put show flash. I'm sorry, I'm in the global configuration mode. I have to come back to the privilege mode. So in privilege mode itself, I can run the show command, but I have to add do. So that we have seen in the initial classes, do show flash. But unknowingly, you type in normal global configuration mode, you will not get it. Add do, you will get the configurations. You will not switch back to the previous mode. So in the flash, you can see number three is a file name with the size they are giving the file name. So that is the file name they are mentioning in the command in the presentation C2900, and it is a bin. Bin is nothing but your binary file. So the file is stored in the binary format. Booting from the TFTP server. Normally, TFTP server is available. We have to install the TFTP software in any one of the server. Maybe we can do it in the dedicated server, and we can connect it in the network. So via your laptop, the configurations can be uploaded to the TFTP server. Um, and then there is any issue, we can restore it from the TFTP server. So what we can do in boot system command, we have to mention boot system TFTP and what is a bin, and the IP address is the TFTP server IP address. So we should be in the same network. If it is different network, it will not work. Suppose the router is connected in the 192 network, 192.168.1 network, and the TFTP server should be in the same network. Okay, maybe I have it in the laptop. Normally we do it from the laptop. Okay, so install the TFTP server software, because for troubleshooting between the buildings, you have to travel. So between the cities you have to travel. So it is always better to have the TFTP server configured in your laptop. So in case of ROM monitor mode, you have to say uh, boot system ROM. So instead of boot system TFTP, if I say boot system ROM, I can load it into the boot system, I mean ROM monitor mode. So do show run include boot system. So these are all the options available: boot system flash, boot system TFTP. So the sequence is like that. I'm going to check the local iOS available in my flash. Something happened and I'm not seeing the operating system. iOS is not available. Now, what I'm going to do, second option is boot system TFTP. Okay, so I'm mentioning the IP address here 1.1.1.2. So different IP address. So I'm saying my TFTP server IP is 1.1.1.2. You can just load the operating system from my TFTP server. So otherwise, boot system ROM. So load the mini iOS and keep the router accessible for the analyst to work on the router. Recovering passwords, just we tried, right? So change the value to 2142, then log into the router and delete the password by typing no password so that all the passwords will be gone and we cannot reset it, right? We can delete it. Then we can log into the router by using our own login and we can just reset the password for the router. So for password recovery, what is the steps we have to follow? Boot the router and interrupt the router boot sequence by performing a break. So we can press the break key so that I'm breaking the boot sequence and something like I want to go to BIOS setup, I keep on pressing F2 or delete key. Some same like I have to press a break key to enter into the to interrupt the boot sequence. Change the configuration register to turn on bit 6 with the value 2142. I told no. Sixth bit if I turn on, that is 0010. So it becomes 4, 0100. So it is 4, value 4. So we can just go ahead with 2142. Reload the router because I put the command 2142. It will forget whatever passwords it has and it will load the router as such as a fresh configuration. Say no to entering setup mode. Just we saw, right? I just pressed no for setup mode. I just entered in the normal mode. Copy the startup configuration file to running configuration. This we have not done. Maybe in the real time we have to do. So I'll download the startup configuration file and copy it to the running configuration and just copy it. Change the password. Reset the configuration register to default value. So it is nothing but from 2142 to 2102 I have to change. Save the router configuration and reload the router. So this is the one I just did it in the previous slide. So once I load it, I'll get the password removed from the router. Okay. So this is the same thing mentioned in the picture also. So interrupting the router boot sequence, we can press break or sometimes you have to press control and break. Your bootstrap will get interrupted and we can get into row monitor mode. Change the configuration register. So just go to row monitor mode. In case of normal working condition, I have to type config-register, but in the row monitor mode, the command uses conf-reg. Okay, conf-reg. The short form is used as a command, so I have to just to use conf-reg and then I use the command reset for resetting the router. Reload or reset, right? So I use the reload command. Yeah, I can also use reset. So reloading the router and entering into privilege mode. So from the ISR type of router, type I or reset. Okay, so while the initialization is happening, I can press I so that it will initiate it and the router will get resetted. The router will reload and ask if you want to use a setup mode or not because I'm not seeing any configurations. It will ask you for setup mode or startup configuration. So we have to say no for entering into the setup mode because we already have a configuration, but it is corrupted or it is damaged. So we have to restore it from the backup and use it here. Press enter to go to the user mode, then type enable to get into privilege mode. So it will work as usual, and we can proceed with pressing the enter keys. So now viewing and changing the configurations. So you know how to change the password, right? So go to the global configuration mode, enable configuration, enable secret and secret password. Copy, run to start. So once you change the configurations, config-register, you're in the normal mode, right? Not in the mini iOS mode. So you can use the command called config-register. So you have to type this number 2102, then only it will update the value, and then we can press the reload option. We can type the reload option, reload it. So the value will get changed. So this is how we do the password reset. or minimum maintenance of the router in the real time. So what you have to remember is you have different modes available, normal mode and row monitor mode, and you can load the operating system and commands by using 0x2102. If at all you want to skip the NVRAM 2142, 0x2142. So these are the basic things you have to remember for CCNA exam or for interviews. Okay. So we have come to the end of the topic. Thank you very much.